So as we discussed yesterday, Mitt Romney announced that he is likely going to run again in 2016. He said it to a group of donors, and he told the donors to tell their other buddies who are donors to get their wallets ready because he's going to run. That tells you a lot about our political system right there. That it's not like you have conversations with activist groups or unions. And you're like, all right, guys, I'm here to represent you. It's like, no, only groups of rich people who have a lot of money. He's like, all right, I can't wait to get in there and really suck all you guys off. It's very sad. So his advisors are putting the makeover campaign in overdrive because they feel like they have a lot of makeup to do because they lost time to people like Rick Perry, who's been doing the I'm a new man routine for like months already. So a top Romney aide, Richard Williamson, did a bunch of interviews, one with the Boston Globe, one with the Washington Post, and he said this, which is noteworthy, quote, "There's a pretty compelling story that if you had a President Romney, you'd be in a different situation. There wouldn't be an ISIS at all. And Putin would know his place in life." When I hear these people talk, I think of toddlers. I really do. When I grow up, I'm gonna be Superman. I'll wear my cape and my tights and I'll save the princess or something. Yay! Listen to what... How do you not know that that's a stupid thing to say? Do you not hear yourself when you talk? ISIS wouldn't exist if there was a President Romney. Putin would be like, oh, please, America, I worship you. I worship you. You're so great. Right, the former KGB madman. How can anybody even consider voting for this guy again? How could he even consider running again? And how could you consider having that guy as your top aide? A guy who just goes around and makes shit up. You know, if Mitt Romney was president, everybody would be rich in the world. So, Putin, for example, what happened with him had nothing to do with America. I love how arrogant these people... The whole world revolves around them, right? Like, if Putin would know his place if I was president. Well, Putin was reacting to a coup in Ukraine, and he reacted to half of Ukraine wanting to become westernized and wanting to join NATO. So he essentially annexed Crimea, the part of Ukraine that's pro-Russian. And I have news for you. The President of the United States is irrelevant in that scenario. The President of the United States had nothing to do with that. Sure, the President of the U.S. is, of course, aligned with NATO, and we represent the West, right? But no matter who was in office, he would have said, I'm going to take the part of Ukraine that's ethnically Russian. It didn't matter who was president. Now, the only thing that would have been different is, what? You're going to make Putin bend to your will. So does that mean that you would have started World War III over the Crimea situation? If that's what you mean, then okay. But that also would be the dumbest fucking thing imaginable, and it would put everybody in America at a terrible risk. So it would be a stupid idea to do that. And ISIS, oh my God, ISIS was created in 2006. The level to which people involved in politics today don't know anything about politics is legendary. And by the way, you sealed the fate of ISIS being created in 2003 when George W. Bush de-Baathified the Iraqi government. That sealed the fate, because what did you do when you did that? Well, the Baathists were relatively secular Sunnis. They were strong men, but relatively secular Sunnis. You angered all the Sunnis in Iraq when you did that. And then you killed so many civilians, and you gave the Shiites control, and the Shiites repressed the Sunnis, and you made a situation where anger was everywhere, and you gave a recruiting tool to the most radical Sunnis who are Al-Qaeda and ISIS. And by the way, as we've reported on before, ISIS wouldn't have any weapons if it wasn't for the original war in Iraq. Because what we did is we left behind massive amounts of weapons. Small arms, tanks, Humvees, we just left them behind. And then what happened? When ISIS moved from Syria into Iraq recently, they just picked it all. Okay, thank you. We'll take this now. So the real problem was George W. Bush and the neocons. And actually, if you're really willing to be serious about it, you have to go further back in time to the creation of the Mujahideen. Because the Mujahideen, that's Al-Qaeda, and that led into the offshoots of all these other jihadist organizations. But Al-Qaeda, the Mujahideen, they were originally funded by Ronald Reagan and the Republicans back then, because the Republicans thought the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And at the time, there was a war in Afghanistan against the Soviet Union. So they said, let's fund everybody in Afghanistan who's fighting the Soviet Unions. Who were the best fighters? They happened to be the Mujahideen. The jihadis in the region that later on, of course, they would use those weapons and that money to strike the U.S., the great infidel in the West. So the problem, step by step, has been right-wing policies. But what does Romney, the right-winger, say? If I was president, I'd be President John Wayne. And I'd say, poof, ISIS be gone. Poof, Putin, know your role. Yeah, I'm sure that'll work.